Hello.
Morning.
Let's look at all your faces. Hello, lovely familiar faces. Hello, Heather. Hello, Wendy. Hello, Jackie. Hello, Virginia. Hello, Donna, Deborah, Declan.
Morning.
Hi, Kerry. Hi, Martin. Hi, Rachel. Who have we got?
I'll carry on. There's more coming in. Yeah.
Hello, Philippa. It's lovely seeing faces that we haven't seen. I saw Frances Hasler yesterday for the first. I said to her, I messaged her and said, "It's so lovely to see your face. It's lovely to see the faces of people I've not seen for ages." That was you yesterday as well, Virginia. That's lovely. Hello, Martin. Nikki. Rena. Excellent. How are we doing? Let's let Kevin in.
Yeah, I'll carry on letting people in.
Carry on letting people in. Excellent. Brilliant. So are you all here to talk about power? Excellent. I feel like we should start by singing, but I don't think I'm up for that. I really don't think I've got that in me this morning, but that does seem like that we really should be doing that, shouldn't we? So let me just see. We got 30 of us. Just give it another minute just to see if there's any stragglers on a Friday morning.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think we're
right. Share. That's right. So shifting the power. That's what we're all about today. But let's just do the practical stuff. I'm sure most of you have heard it, but there are a couple of people who I've not seen in session, so I will just run through them. So just the usual, if you think that someone's trying to get through and they can't, get them to call good old Wendy. Reminder that we are recording. Your pearls of wisdom might end up on YouTube or Vimeo or something clever that I don't know about. So just be really mindful of that. Your presence is your consent. We are also doing some screenshotting. The session at the end of the day, we're going to do a lovely slideshow of photographs that will include some screenshots, some of them prettier than others. So Julie and I between us will be doing some screenshots. So be mindful of that as well, okay? We're a relatively small group, so I think there's going to be sort of no more than about 40 of us, but I know that when you've got multiple screens it can be difficult to get your voice heard. So if you need to say something and we're not noticing you, then hold up your yellow thing, you can hold up your post-its, you can hold up your rubber duck, you can hold up your highlight is yellow, honestly, there we go, highlighter pen, if necessary, just unmute yourself and shout out and say I need to say something. Okay, we're absolutely fine with that. We are really strictly keeping to time. Trisha Nickel gets really cross if we don't keep to time. So we'll be finishing, I promise, at 11:30 because there's other sessions for you to go to. Please stay on mute if you're not speaking, because otherwise we get all that background noise. But otherwise do have your video on, because we do love to see you. It is really nice. It's hard not being together, so it's lovely to see your faces. But if you need to do, go and make a cup of tea or contemplate the universe, or notice that you're feeling a bit tired and maybe a bit yawny, or have the real urge to pick your nose, then you might want to just turn your video off briefly. Play with your views. I know it's a bit difficult when we've got a screen on, and we will jump in and out of the screen sharing so that we can see each other, but play with gallery view or speaker view, and that affects who you can see down the side. If you put it on gallery view, then you can see more and at least scroll through people. I'm scrolling through people now to check that you're all looking and being paid attention. There we go, you are. And you can move that around. You can move your little band of people around if they're blocking the screen. Do use the chat. Let's have the chat open. There'll be lots of times when we are asking you to use the chat, but use it for any questions and comments, and we're recording it, and it'll be part of the things that's saved and shared. So let's stop sharing.
Stop sharing.
There we go.
Right. So first thing to think about now is I want you to think about one word that comes into the front of your mind when you think of power. And either write it in the chat or put your hand up and tell us. Only one word. Go on, Donna. Unmute yourself.
Determination.
Oh,
Determination.
nice.
Good word.
Jackie, you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, knowledge.
Knowledge. Brilliant. Let me just read some of these out because they're fabulous. So men, the very first one, men.
Men.
Dangerous. Corporations. A couple of people saying abuse. A couple of people saying control, strength. A couple of strengths, energy, influence, empowerment, no freedom, clearly hyphenated. Yeah, strength, control, perceived, interesting, and freedom. Nice.
Brilliant.
One more. Damage. Oh, interesting, Virginia. Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So it's interesting because when there was we haven't got time to show it, but there's a lovely YouTube video where somebody goes around Central Park in New York and asks people what they think about power, and the different reactions come from generally where people are with it or how people are feeling. So you could say them today, and tomorrow the first word that comes into your head could be something completely different if you've had a different day or a different experience in that last 24 hours. So a lot of it comes from how people are feeling rather than a definite word as like table. A table's a table every day, you know, but power's a word that really invokes a lot of a feeling. So we're going to just start thinking about where some of that feeling of power and your experiences come from with this first video, just to help us to really think through how our experiences affect our privilege. So I'm sharing that, aren't I, Tricia? I'm looking at you and thinking, no, it's not Tricia that's doing that, it's me. So I'm going to share this video with you now. Let me just optimize this now. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, you've got your grade.
Hey, line up! Line up! Everybody line up! We're about to race! Everybody line up! Shoulder to shoulder! Take off your backpacks! Basketball, line up! We're about to race! Hey, we are racing for a $100 bill. The winner of this race will take this. A $100 bill. Before I say go, I'm going to make a couple statements. If those statements apply to you, I want you to take 2 steps forward. If those statements don't apply to you, I want you to stay right where you're at. Take 2 steps forward if both of your parents are still married. Take 2 steps forward if you grew up with a father figure in the home. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a private education. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to worry about your cell phone being shut off. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to help mom or dad with the bills. Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability, you don't have to pay for college. Take 2 steps forward if you never wondered where your next meal was going to come from. I want you guys up here in the front just to turn around and look. Every statement I've made has nothing to do with anything any of you have done. Has nothing to do with decisions you've made. Everything I have said has nothing to do with what you've done. We all know these people up here have a better opportunity to win this $100. Does that mean these people back here can't race? No. We would be foolish to not realize we've been given more opportunity. We don't want to recognize that we've been given a head start. But the reality is we have. Now, there's no excuse. They still got to run their race. You still got to run your race. But whoever wins this $100, I think it'd be extremely foolish of you not to utilize that and learn more about somebody else's story. Because the reality is, if this was a fair race and everybody was back on that line, I guarantee you some of these black dudes would smoke all of you. And it's only because you have this big of a head start that you're possibly going to win this race called life. That is a picture of life, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing you've done has put you in the lead that you're in right now. When I say go, on your mark, get set, go! If you didn't learn anything from this activity, you're a fool.
Thoughts? I'm looking for hands up, Tricia. Can you see anybody with a hands up? Donna, I'm almost crying. Yeah, it makes me cry every time as well. Powerful, but also emotional. Kerry, real power equals no privilege. Go on, Kerry. Oh, sorry, go on, Wendy. I can see your hand up.
Sorry, I was just going to say that made me incredibly emotional because I think about my sons who have disability, and that's probably them at the back of the race, and I want to change that.
Yeah. Kerry, can you see Kerry, Tricia? Because I can't. You're on mute, Tricia.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I don't know. My video's frozen for some reason. It might be kind of Wi-Fi this end. No, I just think there shouldn't be such a thing as privilege. I think, you know, if everyone's equal and everyone has the same opportunities, then we shouldn't even be talking about privilege and who has privilege and who doesn't. And I just think that's a problem, isn't it? About, you know, why some people get on is often because of that privilege, and that video is so powerful. I've seen it before, but every time I see it, it's just such a wonderful example of how to explain, you know, privilege and also kind of, you know, white privilege as well.
Yeah, it covers so many, doesn't it? It also covers single mums. I'm a single mum, and my daughter has only just at 16, 17 realised that there's a prejudice against single parents. And it really shocked her, really shocked her. She's astounded that she sort of just come in and realised that actually, you know, that there's a prejudice against single mums. So it sort of covers a whole range, doesn't it? Like Wendy said about people with disabilities. For those that have done partners, we do this thing called status in society of what people's roles are and how they're seen by society and how difficult that could be. And that's all about power. You're right, Donna. I know it's really upsetting. You're right.
That was not what our intention wasn't to completely floor everybody at the beginning of the day. So I'm just putting the link in. There we go. I'll just put the link in. So, but that's our starting point. I think that power is more complicated than just power, isn't it? I think that's the thing, that it's actually, there is that the idea that we're not all starting from an equal point of power or not power is really important, and that was focused around, particularly around the issues around Black and minority ethnic communities, but actually all the questions around, I'm particularly thinking about, you know, in America, you know, where you get, you can get your education paid for if you're an athlete. That's a very, very kind of common thing. A lot of kids who wouldn't be able to go to university otherwise, that's how they'll get there. So our colleague Miro Griffiths should have been with us today, but he's been summoned by his university to present to the professor or something like that. So and it just there's an interesting thing about power there, isn't there? So his professor had the power literally yesterday morning to say, I expect you in this meeting to present for me on Friday. And even though Miro was co-presenting on a, you know, national event, his professor trumped everything. So that's a really interesting playing out of power. But Miro gave us a couple of things that he would have said at this point. So let me just share my screen again. And he said, and I found this was really, really helpful to me. He said it's really best not to think about power as a possession or a ball. And I think I'm really guilty of that. And that idea that I'm holding the ball, therefore I've got the power. And he said it's either you've got the ball or you haven't got the ball is not a really helpful way of thinking about power. And he said instead that if we think about power much more like water, so it's fluid, and it moves and takes different directions, and it can occupy different spaces, but it also can change direction. And I think that particularly that image of the river there, you can see where the water has actually made inlets into the riverbanks there by its power there. So it actually can do those things. It become more concentrated in certain areas. And that means that actually in certain contexts, anybody, all of us have power, but it changes and can come and go. And even if we don't have power, then we can demonstrate resistance. And I think this is a really interesting way of framing it. So his question was to think about, before thinking about power, can we think about resistance and why we want to resist? So if we're feeling powerless, let's think about why we want to resist. And particularly today's session is about power and social care. So why do we want to resist current forms of social care? What's that about? How do we resist current forms of social care? How do we actually do that resisting? And what's our alternative? So lots of our thinking about over these last 3 days have been about not just saying it's rubbish, but saying it's not working for me, and this is what we need to do instead. So there's something really, really important about that idea of galvanizing change, resisting and galvanizing change so that we come up with something better. So I don't know if there's anybody, if you wanted to, if there's any kind of observations about that. Oh, but Kevin, that's a really good observation. Yeah, having power comes with responsibility, and this can be a rough journey in the rapids. Absolutely, I like that. It's a really nice analogy. Yeah.
Virginia, oh, I love your yellow duck, Virginia. Can everybody see Virginia's yellow duck? She's fine. I need to screenshot.
Hold it up again, Virginia. I need to screenshot that. Perfect, thank you.
You're on mute, Virginia. Turn yourself off mute. Turn yourself off mute, that's it.
There's water running out of its bottom, actually. It's been in the bath.
Oh, we're taking the metaphor beautifully there.
Yes, I mean, that's what I really want to be able to understand, and to be able to get my head around how you deal with people who think they have the power and control over your lives, and the energy that it actually takes to deal with this, and to actually then, only with the help of, well, in my situation, I'm in control, that you're able to show that and demonstrate that they actually are just wielding power and they haven't got the correct information, etc., etc. The damage, that's where my word is damage, the damage that power does to people. And even when you're able to prove the point, it doesn't take away the months or years of anguish that it actually causes an individual. And as for me, I've been down a hole, really down a hole, because of damage caused by people wielding power. And thankfully, you know, because we've had this festival, it's helped me a great deal. So I'm really grateful to that. Thank you very, very much indeed. But I still don't know how to deal with people without actually taking so much out of myself.
Yeah,
It's a battle.
It is, and it's almost like, so Trisha, I think with that situation, it's resisting somebody thinking they know better than you about how you live your life.
Yeah.
You know, so that so the resistance of social care isn't that somebody doesn't need the support, it's that they think they know best. The resistance is you actually don't know best, don't take over everything. And I think that goes for a lot of social care. People think of social care and think, you're here to take my child away, or you're here to take my mother away. I was devastated. I don't know whether people saw that video of a daughter and granddaughter trying to get the mum back out of a care home because they'd not seen her for 9 months. And the care home got the police out because they'd not done it properly, and mum was on a doles, which is like a safeguarding because she couldn't make a decision. And it is that, you know, who knows, but is somebody going to completely take over my life?
Donna, you wanted to say something? Donna has yellow wool, which I equally like.
Hi guys, I just wanted to pick up on that comment, what Virginia said. She's absolutely right, because I've been in a really dark hole for I was in a really dark hole for 10 years and nobody would help me. And the only 2 people that would help me was my friend Sharon and Julie. Those were the only 2 people that could get me sorted out from where I was. So you have to really put a lot of effort into fighting every single day, and you just want to sit there and go, stop, I need a break, I need to get out of this somehow. But you just have to keep going, and the amount of energy that you waste by keep fighting and fighting and fighting, it just takes it out of you. And all you want is people to listen and stop trying to tell you how to live your life, because we don't go around them telling them how to live their lives at the end of the day. You've got a social worker. At the end of the day, I got the impression a lot of the times that at the end of the day, they just close their file and go home and don't worry about what you think at night. Complete nightmare kind of thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Donna. We've got some great stuff coming up in the chat. Kevin, I think you might win the prize for a quote here. Power can be shared like a water drop in a puddle. A community group. I love that. It's really nice. Sarah, you're saying that people with learning disability often don't recognise the power of others have over their lives. So I think lots of people don't recognise when people have power over them. Absolutely, absolutely. Heather saying it's hard to realise we don't have the privilege we always think we had. So I always thought my upbringing, I thought I should lead some achievements, and disabled people are not taught that we don't have the same starting line, that it's okay not to have done what is expected and not to internalise it. Yeah, absolutely. Kath saying power can silence people. And yeah, we hate conflict. Yes, you're right. It's a very, very shocking video. It is a very shocking video. And Kath, just your observation, I can feel the emotions in the room. I think you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So it's hard. It's impossible to talk about power without it bringing up lots and lots of emotions. I think that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Ahmed, you're saying it's a two-way street. If you use it in a good way with responsibility, it helps people you serve and flourish. But if it's used as controlling others and taking away their power, then it's damaging. Yes, so power can be used in lots of different ways. And about that idea, Wendy, you're saying if we could use the energy that we have for the battle for making change, how powerful would we be? Definitely. And some people do, Lindsay, you're saying people do have misplaced power and enjoy wielding it. That's true. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think, sorry, just let Francis in. Let's go into small groups, shall we? I'm just gonna share my screen so you can see what the question is before I put you into breakout rooms.
Hi, Francis.
Hi, Francis. So a really short breakout group, 5 minutes, and we're just going to put you in little groups of three or four you'll be in. And I want you to think about times when you have either, well, both wielded power and felt powerless. We all will be in, we all should have examples, we all will have examples of both those times when we've wielded power or felt powerless. So this is just not just about the world of social care, this is about life, okay? So have a think, chat to each other and see if you can come up with some examples of times when you've either wielded power or felt powerless. So I'm gonna, no, don't do that. Pop you in some breakout rooms, recreate. Right, you're heading off to your breakout rooms. You've got 5 minutes, okay? Think about times when you've either wielded power or felt powerless, and then we'll come back in 5. Donna, are you waving at us or yes? No. So what came out of that then? What sorts of things? Let's have some examples of times you wielded. Yeah, those breakout rooms really are clever, aren't they? I know. We're getting more confidence. It's been like this, planning this festival has been like a kind of massive NVQ and learning to use Zoom for all of us because we had to work it all out.
Baptism of fire.
Absolutely. Hey, we had whiteboards in my session yesterday, I'll have you know.
Woo!
I know, absolutely.
What? Yeah,
So anybody wants to kind of share anything about the conversations they've had? So again, chat or pop.
I'm happy to start. It's easier if I just talk than put it in the chat.
Go for it, Sarah.
I was with Virginia, Lindsay, and I can't remember the other lass's name. They were all parents anyway. They were all parent carers, and we talked about power around trying to get things for your children that they need and constantly fighting around getting things that your children need. Lindsay was saying, I don't know whether you want to chip in, Lindsay, around what your feelings about feeling powerless as well, as parent carers. Not many of us could think about when we did have a lot of power. I suppose working with people with learning disabilities, you do have a role of power, really, especially when you're supporting someone and I suppose you've got some kind of say over how their life goes. I suppose that power, you could see it power if it was being abused, I suppose. And so what is power? Is it having an advantage over a person? Is it having more knowledge than a person? And what actually makes that? Because you can have more knowledge than a person, but if you don't abuse that power and you use it well, then is it power type thing? So there's that kind of conversation as well, isn't it? Carers are often people, yeah. So that's what we were talking about really for the fight around, around being a parent. I don't know whether any of the ladies want to add anything else on there that I've missed off. I'm sorry if I have. I can't remember it all. I should have written it down. But the only time I've ever felt powerless really is when I've been mugged and attacked in the street and I didn't see it coming, and I felt like I just went completely into shock. And I just stood there and did absolutely nothing at all. I didn't fight back. I didn't do anything. I just stood there. And I suppose that's the only real time in my life I've felt completely powerless.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm just going to run through a few of the chats. So Alicia said, I feel most powerful when faced with inequality and injustice. I feel most powerful when faced. So is that, Alicia, do you want to say something? Do you want to say a bit more about that? Because that's interesting. Is that about a call?
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I can't. My internet's really bad, so I can't go on video. But yeah, I think I was thinking about my role. So I've often had quite powerful roles, and have held power, and have felt powerless within those. But where I feel I have the most power is when somebody else that I'm working with or advocating for is faced with injustice, and then I take power, even if I don't. It's not power I would traditionally have. So and can sort of climb mountains if faced with injustice. Does that make sense?
Completely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I like the fact that you've said I had power, but yet still felt powerless. Because I think a lot of people would recognise that actually, yes, I have got a position of power, but yet I feel completely powerless. So in our group, we were talking about, you know, people sort of, even though they might be in a powerful position at work, when faced in front of a health professional and your family, you can suddenly then feel completely powerless. But if you're with somebody that you're working with and you're in that professional paid position, you suddenly are able to wield power for the benefit of that person, and how different that is between personal power and professional power.
Yeah, definitely.
Trisha, sorry, could I just add to that as well? I was saying that, so as I'm a mum, and when I've had, say, like social workers coming out to see me, the only time I felt that I have a tiny bit of power is when they've heard of my reputation in the work that I do. I work with other families. It's kind of when they say, oh yes, I've heard about you, you kind of think, yes, I might have a bit of a chance here to get what I want.
I can 100% relate to that, Wendy. Oh, it's Trisha Nicol, be careful. Yeah, but then I think about a time last year when I was trying to wield power. I know I was trying to wield power. It was in the power of protecting my daughter, and I was overtly told that you have no power. We will make this decision, and I my reaction was fascinating me, because I just burst into tears. And it was like temper tears. People know that feeling of like I felt like a teenager. It was just like I felt like I was using everything I could possibly do to make what I felt was the right thing to do, and yet I was being overtly told that I couldn't do it. And the only reaction I had was just to burst into tears. So I completely relate to that. Themes of power and how you can overcome them. So we're touching on that idea of taking power. I think that's really important. It's an active thing. And I think if you go back to the water analogy, water takes power, doesn't it? So it takes power and carves out. I was down in Devon last week for a couple of days, and there was a bit of really overt erosion where the sea has taken power over the buildings that are coming dangerously close to the edge of it. So that's that taking power thing. About reminding people that there's a human in front of them, taking power. Definitely a really good one. There's a few comments about empower people. Power should be used to empower people rather than controlling people. And I've always really struggled with the word empowerment, and it's a real button presser for me, because it implies that I can give people power, and I struggle with that as a concept. So I don't know, it's just something that I really struggle with.
Some will say that power could never be given, it has to be taken. But again, the problem with that is people then start to think of power as a ball, something that can be given and taken, and it's more fluid than that. So you think, you could have a lot of power in a little stream somewhere, but actually a big wave could completely wipe over from a different direction, or there'll be something else around the corner. So there's different power levels that can exist at the same time. Hence, when people say they get into power struggles, they could be from completely different levels.
Yeah. So some of the words, Kerry, was saying in your group, some of the powerful statements used in your group to describe how being powerless being power being wielded against her, humiliated, frustrated, no control, people not being aware of the power they actually have and how to use it. Kevin, your observation, doctors struggle as patients, 100%. So this is really, being allocated a care package. That's the way you've written that is very important. Is the most disempowering thing I've ever experienced. Because you've been handed it, given it, by definition making you powerless. I heard about go on.
Sorry, so no, somebody's put in the chat. It's sad though, isn't it? But actually, it doesn't have to be. So there is something about powers for good and for evil, which we'll come on to, because I don't want to leave you all in this. I can feel the emotion. I can't believe that we can feel this emotion on a Zoom. But you can actually be, so Donna, your situation, you went from being very powerless to feeling powerful, and it wasn't anything anybody give to Donna. It was how she felt and what she decided to do. So there's something about what you think and how you think and what you know.
you kind of have to dig deep inside yourself and start to believe in yourself, because the one thing about power, if somebody thinks that they take that power away from you, they will make you feel like crap. They will make you feel like crap. At the end of the day, you have a decision. It's your life. You just have to look deep inside yourself. Yeah, you may need a little help from friends, not looking at anyone in particular, Julie, but you can get there. It's not impossible. With hope, there's always hope. Plus, you get to kick a few asses. So.
Rebecca talking about the power that can come from controlling funding. So we're going to come on to the money bit in a second. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So another example of feeling powerless in the social care system is not being believed, or a worker saying offensive things and not being able to get away from that situation. So it's that idea, I can relate to that. So if you're in a situation that you can't, so if your only choice is to have nothing, it's the take it or leave it thing, isn't it? So if you need support and you're being told it's got to be like this, and your only choice is to not have that. Rebecca, do you want to say?
Or even if you just you physically can't get away from that person, because you need their help to get out of the house, you're actually trapped.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Kevin, and the water analogies here are brilliant. Water has a huge amount of potential energy. So empowerment comes from within and needs to be released. Now that I can live with, that works for me, Kevin. Thank you. That's a very good reframing of it for me. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
So Tony's saying, I see empowerment as sharing knowledge and supporting people to build confidence and take action. I feel powerful in areas where I have lots of knowledge and expertise. Yeah. I'm still really embarrassed about this, but the people I was working with still dine out on it. They still use it as an example. And I was doing some work last year in a local authority and health area that will remain nameless, doing some care and treatment reviews with people in a particular assessment and treatment unit. And they brought out a document about mental health and people with learning disabilities. And the psychiatrist was doing a really nasty piece of work about this young woman who we were trying to get out of hospital. And he was flicking through this document saying, well, if I think you're all wrong. It says in here, da, da, da. And I said, I think you'll find it doesn't say that. I wrote it. And I felt real, and I was really embarrassed as I said it, because it felt I was absolutely picking up an axe of power and wielding it very, very, very strongly, but I felt it was for good. And everybody in the room just went, because they all, and it was just the guy was like, that. So it's a real act of wielding power for good, though, for good.
Yeah, for good.
So yes, sometimes people are really creative. So Martin, I'd like to think that people sometimes are really creative and create their own power where there are gaps in the system, distorting how things are designed to work. Lovely, yeah, really nice. Comes with responsibility, trust, and honest to help others. Language, language really, really powerful. Assessment, eligibility, rather than having a conversation. One of the quotes we put on yesterday was the idea about changing the verbs we use, and I think that's a really important one. Kath, I found power in agreeing my own values and having them as a guide in all situations. Nice, lovely. During lockdown, many older families whose sons and daughters live with them lost their day services and short breaks. They had no control of their support packages. They relied on the provider to put in an alternative. And so those of us with direct payments utilise the funding differently. Yeah. So that idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of worry about people who are in situations where they can't even get a little bit of power to their elbow, can they? Because they're in that situation and not being able to reach out for some support or some advice so that they can get into a powerful position. That's a worry for me too.
Providers feeling powerless when the local authority take funding away. Yes, so that power happens at lots of different levels. It's not just people. Absolutely, Tony, I get that completely. Rachel, a care package was recently given to my grandfather as he broke his back, and that care package has made him feel that his home is not his own because 70 people have a right to come into his home. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Philippa will definitely get on to the different types of power in a minute.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I couldn't stand that.
Yeah. So.
Right, let's get some on.
So let's do a couple of polls then, shall we? So now this is Julie and I trying to be a little bit clever, so bear with us if it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So let's see if polling. So we have a question. Now, can you see that?
Yes, it's come up. Yeah.
Excellent. So knowledge and power equals knowledge plus
knowledge
money.
and money. Yeah. So
Power.
knowledge plus money equals power. Do you think that's true?
Trish,
Yes.
that's a very black and white question.
I know. Hello, John.
Hello, John. Yeah, sorry.
Hey, John.
Hello, Julie. Hi, guys. Sorry I'm late.
Right. Go for it. Vote.
So go on. Knowledge plus money equals power. True or false? Yes or no?
Now, I'm not seeing anybody voting. Is that because you can't see how to do it?
No, they are voting. It's coming up on my screen.
It's not coming up on mine at all. Isn't that interesting? I've got 0 out of 37 are voting.
We've got 72% voted so far.
Right, I'm not. That's really interesting because I'm seeing 0.
Oh! It's like the American elections.
It's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
It's at the moment with 53% to 47%. 33 of 37 voted.
So Kerry can't see the poll because you have to log on via your browser. Okay. Anybody else? So Kerry can't vote. We'll let you have your vote, Kerry. Is it a yes or a no for you?
89% voted.
So Kerry's saying yes. So add that one to. So she's a yes.
Go on, Julie, do the maths. Add Kerry's voting and do the maths.
We've got Johnny here now. I'm delighted. He'll be able to add them extra percentages on now.
I can't
right,
see.
It's slowing down now. It's no. It's gone up again. 91% voted now. Oh, it is very much like looking at the American elections. It's 56.
We've even got the question of, do we add the other votes in?
Brilliant.
So we've got 56% yes and 44% no.
Okay.
Kerry sent hers via the post. We'll come back in a couple of weeks and check again.
Kathy's saying, stop counting. Yes, we're stopping counting. So, brilliant. So Mickey, you're saying you can't see the poll over a yes. There's another couple of yeses then. So it's more yes. So just a couple of, Kevin, knowledge plus money equals opportunity.
That's not a question, Kevin.
I like it though. Anybody want?
Right.
Let's have 2 qualifications for that. I only want 2. A couple of people prepared to speak and qualify why they've said yes or no.
Can you end the poll first?
Sorry.
On our screen, because we should get a lovely result across the screen. Share results. There we go. So the result ended at 56% yes. Can you see that, Tricia?
No, so mine says 0%.
Oh, right. Well, on our screen, it says 56% yes and 44% no.
Can you take a screenshot of that, Julie?
Shouldn't I? Yes. Oh, just hold on before you just get rid of it. Just let me get my check. Right. Okay. Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So a couple of ones. So Rebecca, did you say you wanted to come in with a qualification of why?
Well, I guess so. I said yes, but in my mind, I was thinking about a huge amount of money, like win the lottery. Like knowledge plus like millions would give you loads of power and you could just make all kinds of decisions. But I guess kind of it doesn't give you everything and you're still potentially limited by kind of what is out there. And if those kind of options, if the options you want don't exist, then you still don't have that much power.
Okay. That's a great yellow thing. Is yours, Rachel? Is yours a no? Were you a no or a yes?
Yeah, I'm a no.
Good,
I'm a no.
That's why I'd like a no. Go on then.
Because you can have all the money and you can have all the knowledge, but if you don't have a voice and if you don't know how to express it, then you still can't get where you need to get.
Okay.
For me, there's other things that come into it.
Yeah. Fab. Okie dokie. Oh, let's admit Natalie. There we go. Right. Francis, did you want to say?
You're on mute,
I
Francis.
just want to sort of add one thing to that, which is that you can have knowledge and there can be quite a lot of money washing around the system, but it's sort of adding on to Rachel's thing about voice, that if people are not listening to your voice and taking that seriously and saying that our knowledge and our power is more important than your knowledge, I'm just thinking I went to the funeral of a very dear friend who was a direct payments user just recently, and she'd had such a lot of problem when she was in a hospital with getting the staff to understand the role of her PAs. This sounds familiar to some of you, I think. Just because, you know, the nurse's knowledge somehow trumped her knowledge of her own body and how she worked. And it took a lot of other friends sort of getting in there and getting behind her and, you know,
I think that's a
repeating
really,
what she had to say to get them to listen. You know, one person's voice wasn't sufficient against the might of the kind of professionalism of those nurses.
I think that's and actually, Sarah, you've just said money and no knowledge gives you lots of power. Look at Donald Trump. Yeah, so absolutely. So I think so you're right. Some types of knowledge, particularly I think in our world of health, possibly even more than social care, that absolutely trumps it. I think you're absolutely right. It's a really, really good point. Okay, second poll. Right, no, I don't want that one. So where's my second poll gone? Can you see the other poll, Julie? Because I'm right, stop sharing. Closed. Right, can you see poll number 2?
Yes.
Right, could you launch it? And this is very strange, isn't it?
Right, so mine will stay on 0% now.
Yeah. Right.
Somebody said in chat, 100% of experts in a room, and they'll all have 100, and they'll have 150 opinions.
I love that. I'm screenshotting lots of these quotes because they're so good. Right, are you launching that, Ju?
Yeah, it's launched.
Oh, I can't see it.
I can now.
Can everybody else see it?
Can other people? I can see it. So we've got, we have got 61% of people who have voted. So if you use social care, you can never have real power. True or false?
So why can't I see that? Isn't that weird how I can't see that?
I know. Because you're the main host, aren't
I know.
you?
So I thought I should have the power.
Oh, you think? There's gremlins in your machine.
There's definitely gremlins in my machine.
So 70% at the moment saying, see, you wonder if I read that out, will it affect people's votes? Let's have a see of the power of influence. 71% are saying false and 29% are saying true. And there's 89% of people that have voted. See if people change their mind. So this isn't as close, this one now. Hey, John, you could get some real good stuff on this going, couldn't you, John Waters? We used to do the higher and lower. We could get the Zoom version of it going. 89% voted. Are we slowing down now?
Anybody not able to? Kerry, so your Kerry's as a false because Kerry can't use the voting thing.
Okay, so let me just get rid of the chat and take a screenshot of that. Right, so we've got 71% false, 29% true.
Okay. So again, let's just have somebody who said true first of all. Tell us why they said true. I'm looking for hands. Who said? Or just unmute yourself. If you said true and want to say why you said true, then just unmute yourself.
I'll go. I said true.
Aye, brilliant. Go on then.
Hi, sorry, I can't show my camera because it's not working.
Don't worry.
I don't want it to be true. So, but I think how everything is set up at the moment, it is very, I think money plays a large part in that. And the reliance on that comes having a reliance on someone else. So I know I work in the Liverpool area, and I know Liverpool at the moment are doing a big project on how people control their own direct payments. But for that to happen, the council's still got to have some control over that, depending on what someone wants for their own life. So at the minute, I think in the future we can get there, but at the moment, I think that's why I've said it's true.
Okay, thank you. Who's someone who said false? Just unmute yourself. If you don't want to, I'm looking for waving, but please feel free just to unmute yourself and tell us why you said false.
I said false, Trish.
Go on then. Make the case for false.
I think it very much depends. What's made me answer that was a reflection on something I read many years ago in a book called Politics of Disablement. I think it was by a guy called Michael Oliver, who was a professor at Essex University, great guy. And he kind of articulated an argument that kind of said, well, I use a wheelchair or what have you, and therefore society disables me in a range of ways. But you guys, you all wear glasses. You're just as disabled as me. Without your glasses, you can't see anything. And it's really just our perceptions of those systems that are put in place to ensure citizenship, if you like, isn't it? And the challenge for us who work in the system, I think, and those who look to the system for support is to figure out how we do it. It's like John O'Brien says, isn't it? We just haven't figured it out yet. So I think it's possible. We just haven't figured it out. Brilliant.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Miro would definitely say false
Yes.
on that one as well. You know, so he would say, well, actually, it's what you take, and you know how you present yourself and how you take it forward to get what you need. So I think a bit like John, you wouldn't go into an optician's necessarily and be frightened. You would go in and expect some levels of choice, and you would know that you could take your prescription somewhere else, and you're in much more control of getting what you need and knowing that there are different routes that you can go to. Tricia gets loads of them online and everything. You're getting like Prue now, aren't you? With your going to different glasses. You know, but we don't have that in other service systems, do we?
No.
And why don't we have the same attitude to it?
No. And I like Rachel, you said perhaps the question should be, could it be possible to have full control over your social care support? Then figure out how. I like that. Okay. Let's just have, we've built in, because we appreciate that 2 hours is a long time, so we've built in a comfort break of 5 minutes, but it's no more than 5 minutes. So it just gives you the chance to, current slide. Oh, can't do that. Shall we get back?
Yes.
Brilliant. So we're going to try, we've done a lot of kind of introduction to kind of exploring power generally, and we want to get you thinking about power and social care much more specifically now. So we're going to put you in small groups for a little bit longer, okay? So let me just show you where we're up to.
The slide. And it picks up on what you were saying, Philippa, that there are different types of power, and there are different power points. So we've got, why is power such a big issue in social care? And I know some were giving examples of healthcare as well, you know, sort of, you know, doctors don't like being patients, and nurses don't like being patients. So why is power such a big issue in health and social care? And what are the main power points in it? So what are the main points where power really sort of comes out? Where is the hidden power, and what stories have you got to illustrate any of those?
So we're going to give you 15 minutes to explore this, again in nice little groups, so you've got plenty of chance. And I'm going to I'll post these in the chat, so you can, even in your small groups, you can still see the questions, okay? So I'm just going to come out of screen sharing, and pin that in the chat. There they are. And then let's get you into breakout rooms. So I'm going to.
And we'll all just magically whoosh again.
You will. Now I'm gonna. Now, would you? Here's choice. Shall I mix you up again, or is it quite nice to go back into the same group? The first person who tells me whatever they prefer, I will do.
Let's mix it up so people meet different people.
Excellent. Right, there we go. Brilliant. So you've got 15 minutes. So it's 20 to 11. I'm going to bring you back at 5 to 11. Okay. Opening the rooms now.
Well, let's hear what people came up with first. So what were the different PowerPoints people came up with? Kath, you just unmute yourself, Kath.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi.
So we talked a lot about what I always talk about, and that is going a step further back in looking at power and why it exists in health and social care like it does. And that is you get what you design for. So, you know, you have very, very vulnerable people with complex health disabilities in a system that's governed by hierarchy and accountability that isn't user-led or with lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
So to people, you know, people operating in that system will pick up on these cues. You know, you have your CEOs or your counsellors in suits, you know, and you'll have them sitting in separate rooms, and it won't be very kind of human-led experience or real experience. It's very outdated and arbitrary way of managing organisations. So if you consider the opposite, like Bertzog, where power and self-management are in play, and it's a different experience entirely. So we kind of talked about that, and about if someone in this group could devolve social care to a user-led organisation with people with lived experience, then we'd be very happy. So hands up.
We'll have it sorted by the end of the day.
Okay, great.
And do you think then that the power would shift, or have you ever seen any groups or organisations where it has been devolved and then they've ended up becoming gatekeepers, and the same power issues from strategy and legislative happen regardless of who's running it?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because it really all, well, if you have a user-led organisation, it will have a CEO in a kind of normal operating structure that we're used to. So yes, there's a very real risk of toxic leadership, even with a user-led organisation, and lack of skills and knowledge about how to manage power and work well with people. But if you look at a more flattened structure, like Bertzog and so many other organisations out there that are leading the way in these kind of different organisations, then there's some real emerging evidence of a real shift in how things play out. So yeah, I do think you're right. It's not just about being a user-led organisation. It's more complex than that. But yeah, it would be a good start, maybe.
So yeah, so you're talking about different cultural powers there and some organisational power there. So if the organisational's less hierarchical and more flat, with a better chance.
Yeah, I know it's radical, but we've all been talking about this for years. I know some people in this group that have been going around this merry-go-round for years. So we need radical.
We do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool.
Other people, other PowerPoints?
I'm just flicking through, looking for.
Yeah.
Rachel's
well, I don't mind having a go.
Yeah.
Just picking up on what we've just said. Ultimately, there is a budget. Now, whether that budget from the government or from our council tax or whatever you want to call it, wherever that budget comes from for social care, whether it's held by the local authority social care as it is, or where it's held by this suggested user-led organisation, it still is going to be down to the expectation of communities and individuals and people about how that is spent. Now, if we at the moment don't feel that we have a voice with, as it is, with the local authority and you know, social care through the local authority and the council, and being able to have that conversation at a community level with the user-led organisation, we have to get to a point, either way, we have to get to a point where, you know, how do we cut the cloth? And for me, if it's done at a community level, you're more likely for someone who needs less to step back and let Mrs. Smith, who lives just down the road, to have some of that money. That's my ethos when I'm handing back my son's direct payment. I could see it as an entitlement and get in some extra support from the PAs and use it to the max because I'm entitled to it. You know, he doesn't need it this week, so I'll use it and have an extra bit. Or I say, no, there is no use for it, therefore I hand it back for little Mrs. Smith. Now, whether or not it fills holes in roads or whether it goes for a director's pay rise, I don't know. But yeah, I believe that if it's held at a community level, we will utilize it where we can and only when we can. As a community, I think we would use our voluntary systems, our helping each other, our assistive technology. We'd use it more naturally and not feel that using volunteers and assistive technology as the local authority cutting corners. Well, no, actually, if the money was held locally at a community level, we'd probably accept volunteers and the more natural ways of support. So, sorry, I'm just putting it out there that
no, it's good. It's good. Can you put the list in the chat, Tricia? The list of the things, because what you're covering there, these are by no means the end list, but these are just some to get us going. But you're talking about financial power there and community power, but all around decision making as well.
Yeah.
So who is it ultimately who gets to make the decision?
Yeah. So would you call it community power, local authority power, whatever it is? Sometimes it's down to the expectation of the community and the people with a disability or the vulnerability. What is it that they're expecting, and actually having some responsibility. Somebody's already said about responsibility comes with that control and that power. And that responsibility to hopefully reach your best potential and not sadly kind of sit back and I'm disabled, therefore someone will come in and cook and clean and so on and so forth for me. But be able to embrace, and the community embrace everybody and utilize and cut that, cut the cloth, as I say, use that budget wisely at a local level. And that's why I think it needs to be at a community level, and yes, probably with a user-led organization.
Okay.
Anybody else? Last comment, because I want us to get into how we're going to move forward. I don't want to.
Donna's waving.
And Rebecca's waving as well.
So Rachel.
Go on, Donna.
Julie, you know when we're doing like assessments and you've got, I know I really, really, really hate this word. They call it complex needs. Well, yesterday I came up with this little slogan that goes, I'm not a person with complex needs. I'm a disabled person that is just unique.
Brilliant.
Because I am. And I wish to stop using that word complex, because we're just unique. And it's, then you got
unique, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Thanks, Donna.
Yeah.
Rebecca?
I guess I just wanted to say that I think one of the big tension points is kind of defining what the role is for, and also defining what good should look like. I think at the moment, from what I see, a lot of people who work in social care get a feeling of importance from all the wrong places. You know, they feel more important if the person looks more kind of needy. They feel more important if they have more control. They feel more important when they're making things medical, when they just don't need to be medical. They feel more important when they're getting praise from anyone but the person that they're supporting. And I think that needs to change. That needs to be kind of totally, what the job is for needs to be totally kind of reframed. And one of the things that we talked a little bit about in our kind of breakout room was how aspects of the system are kind of like, I guess, like kind of like weaponized in people's homes. So training, for example, and different rules and regulations. Often I find that workers will just ignore the bits that they don't want to do if it makes their lives easier. But they will enforce the aspects that cause pain and harm to people where they want to do that. So it's kind of, that is used as a weapon, and as like a tool of like power and control within the home. And I think, yeah, that is just a massive tension point.
Definitely, yeah. So there's stuff around people's status, so that they can feel powerful themselves. There's something about strategy there, and systematic culture. So it covers quite a number of. It's not easy, this stuff, is it? Was there somebody else with a hand up, Tricia, that I missed?
No, Francis.
Tony from, yeah.
Yeah, I've just put my hand up. In our breakout group, we actually had a really interesting conversation about the history, and where you started with things like the workhouses and institutions and places, and whether there's still that culture of power in relation to managers and professionals, and looking at people with disabilities of, oh yeah, they need our help, they can't make decisions. And whether, like, sometimes you find with like privilege, which has been in the media and discussed a lot, where from history with privilege of people from like white privilege, is there like that privilege that has come from in relation to disability?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Right, Tricia.
Shall I pop the superpower slide up?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So Julie and I have a theory that what we need to focus on is actually the idea of superpowers. So we can get really caught up with power. We've had some fabulous discussions about, you know, how it feels and all of those things. But what we want to do is to actually think about going forward and what we want to do about power and where we want to take it and how we want to make it feel for ourselves and for the people we love and for the areas in which we work. So what we wanted to do was to get you to think about, regardless of roles, this is irrelevant. You could be a director of adult social care, or you can be Mrs. Smith, who's 95 and living on her own and getting her support at home. Regardless of that, what are the superpowers that we want to grow and nurture? Okay, so superpowers that we want to grow and nurture. I'm going to unshare screen because it's much easier to do that. So have a think, and let's just do shouting out or type. So type if you want to, or put your hand up. It can be a superpower that you own, that you think, yeah, I think I've almost got this superpower. I'd like to nurture it a little bit more, or a superpower that you know that somebody else has got. Voice, Rachel says, yeah. So let's build on that a little bit. Rachel, do you want to say a little bit more? The superpower of voice.
Yeah, I think the superpower of voice for me is about, and we've spoken a lot in some of the groups actually, about that clarity and simplicity of the statements and the things that we need to say, and not overcomplicating with jargon and old-fashioned language. And just there was something yesterday about keeping things simple so that everybody can understand, and therefore everybody can have a stronger voice and a stronger say, because nobody's excluded.
Brilliant. So let's just go through some of these. So voice, kindness. The superpower of kindness, that could trump everything, couldn't it? Okay. Julie, you said that putting stuff on Twitter can be a superpower. Absolutely. Knowledge of systems. Philippa, I love this. Emotional connection to ourselves and to others. I love that. Definite superpower. The superpower of copying in your MP. Donna, the ability not to give up. Brilliant. Julie, say a bit more about the MP one, because that's I think lots of people won't know this.
Yeah, I think it was just sort of based on what are the hidden powers. So people think they're in that powerless situation, but actually there's a lot of hidden power that we can utilise really, really well to get our voices heard. So some of that could be getting some people who will give a bit of power to your elbow. Don't do things alone. You know, so if somebody who's done deep sea diving, you never ever dive without a buddy. So where's your buddy? People always finding a buddy, somebody who'll give a bit of power to your elbow. But then there's other things, there's whole communities now, you know. So I've seen people use Twitter in a massively powerful way, where the system said, oh God, we don't want her putting something on Twitter again saying we're not doing this very well. You know, so suddenly you're making it transparent, you're making the issue transparent and getting it up on the table, as we'd say in the North. Get it on the table, don't hide it underneath the table. So making things transparent is very, very powerful.
Brilliant.
You know, so another one then is making sure the MP knows, making sure your community knows about it, so that your community is not just concentrating on how much the bins are being taken out or who leaves dog poo on the street. They care about social care. So getting your own local community power going.
Brilliant. John, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just reflecting on what we learned over the years of listening to people when we looked at people who were getting great outcomes and what they said things felt like. And there were three big themes there that jumped out, that if we're in the system, we need to hold dear and make sure they happen. One was being very, very clear about what's possible and what the rules are. You know, having that clarity of vision for people and understanding how the system works is a key thing that we can do. The other is people who felt heard. So listening, that listening is the superpower, making sure that we listen and respond, but also people feel that we've listened and we tell them we've heard and show them we've heard. And then the other is trust. And if people who were trusted to shape their own support and lead their own lives, those guys were the people who said that things worked. So there's three superpowers there. It's our eyes, our ears, and our hearts for me.
Brilliant.
Thanks, John.
I love that. I remember I reminded of my very, very wonderful tutor in the many lifetimes ago that I was at uni, was a guy called John Swain, who actually has written with Vic Finkelstein and Mike Oliver and Colin Barnes. So I was very lucky to have him as my tutor. And he shared with me the Chinese symbol for to listen, which is I give to you my eyes, my ears, my eyes, and my heart. And that's the Chinese symbol for to listen, which is kind of like all of those things is a superpower. I love it. Okay, so what else have we got? The ability not to give up. Yeah, sharing knowledge, empowerment, listening. So you've had that as well, recognizing the disabled person, not the advocate or social worker, is the most important person. The superpower of the ability to change hearts and minds. 100%, Rachel, you have that superpower. Wendy, my superpower, I have a degree when it comes to my sons, therefore I'm more qualified than their social worker. I love that. I was about to screenshot that one, Wendy, if that's all right. Perfect. So humanity, the superpower of humanity, respect, talking to each other and understanding. The superpower of lived experience, absolutely. You can't say, I say to people, you can't say it's not how it is, because it's true. You can't tell me it's not how it is. It is for me. You can't say it's not. Martin, the superpower of assertiveness. Yeah, so definitely not being afraid to go, hello, hang on a minute. Integrity. Managing your own, Kate, you're saying managing your own stress so you can be resilient. It can be so hard emotionally, you have to give up. Yeah, so there's something about that taking that, definitely. Wendy, believing that the ripples we are creating will grow and become a huge wave. Back to that water analogy, definitely. We talked in our breakout room, Sarah, we talked in our breakout room about the horrific abuse of power in assessment. I think that's assessment and treatment centres like Walton Hall, yes, and how we can stop this happening. Superpower would be ability to get rid of these big hospitals and look after people in our communities. Yeah. We did utilise the MP and director, unfortunately got no response. Oh, I'm sorry. So Rebecca, for me as a family member, feeling good about sharing my power with that family member, even down to the smallest daily activities. Yeah. Not silencing that voice. Tenacity, Francis, keeping going. Absolutely. I think you can definitely own that as your superpower. Yeah. I definitely know you well enough to know that's the truth. I love it. Using real language. So the power of language, the language is a massive power, isn't it? It's one of my, again, those of you who know me know this, one of my absolute pet kind of hates and celebrations is about the power of the language that we use. I do quite a lot of teaching people about it. So there's something for me about how we take the superpower of challenging language of that othering people. That's, you know, of making it feel like there's the them and us, and actually remembering that so it goes back to the humanity superpower as well. I think people power, definitely. Bringing people, Martin, you're saying bringing people together who think the same thing and demanding change assertively. So the power of bringing people together, that's a really important one. And it's like you were saying, Julie, about don't do it on your own. Definitely dive in pairs, but if even better, dive as a whole group. I think, Martin, we've seen a lot. Yeah, we've seen a lot of that in the sessions that some of us have been involved in with TLAP and the Department for Health and Social Care over COVID, and the power of a group of just 30 people. You know, a lot of the, do you want to say a little bit just briefly, Martin? Because I think it's a really good example.
Yeah, so thanks, Trish. Yeah, it's just literally, you know, and it's that sort of research to saying to government, it's not good enough just to whiz this thing around and expect people to comment yesterday and your list of sort of people that you can reach out to quickly. So just that sense of, you know, okay, let's try something else. Let's bring a group together, and I think, yeah, over the last few months we've been able to prove that, and then we built some trust, and then we've been able to talk about other things, building on that trust that we established. I think
definitely, and got, you know, some massive results, definitely. So yeah, the power of being together.
Yeah, and I think it fits in with that courage to just try something up. To try something new and make it up as you go. You know, because in effect it was, I think it was massively courageous of Martin to bring that group together, because it was like bloody herding cats at first, you know, but he had the courage to do it and carry on with it, and it's ended up having massive potential and massive influence.
I've got Lynn Elwell, who lots of you know, painted me a plate and that I have downstairs that says, sometimes you just have to jump and build your wings on the way down.
Yeah,
and I watched, and my keys sit on it. So every time I take a key up, I see that, and that's kind of what you're saying, Francis, isn't it? Just do it, and it'll happen. Something will happen. So
trouble with that, Trish, is a little bit like Brexit.
Yeah, thanks for that, John.
That's the mentality that got us to hit the floor in January, mate.
Yeah, I have got broken ankles. Brilliant. Do we want to get the last sort of 10 minutes about the kind of the what next? So the final question we've got is a what would it take question. So if all those superpowers are absolutely fantastic, so what would it take to make any of those superpowers a reality, kind of like across the board? And can you think about what actions, some of those superpowers you've shared have been fantastic and very real. So some of you I know well enough to know that the superpowers you've said you genuinely have. So how do we grow it? And if you're tentatively owning a superpower, how can you actually grow that superpower? So what would it take and how can you grow it? Anybody want to shout out? Let's have some voices to finish the session off. I'm very happy to unmute and say it. Go on,
I think when people are being trained as doctors, social workers, practitioners, a lot of their training should revolve around communication, understanding, etc.
And I think from previous experience of this, they have something like an hour, don't they, of training on how to talk to people.
Yeah, we go in and do ours as a self-advocacy group. We've set up a training arm. So we train GPs, all nurses, mental health and disability nurses, general nurses, and social workers, all in year 1 at Huddersfield Uni. So we do that so we get them while they're young. That's our, get them before they've started any bad habits. And it's all, we have a lady talking about having a child removed. We have people talking about their own experiences. And I think education is key, really. I think, you know, and coming from the people themselves who've had experience of that and saying, actually, it's not all right and you need to be, I think people just need to be really aware of what power they have and make sure that they're using it in a fair and equal way, and show success stories of that as well, about how people are really involved in the decisions, and send out a massive message from day one that it's not all right, you know, to make decisions for other people at all, ever, even if you do think it's the best thing.
Love it. Kevin, can I get you to say a bit more, because I love what you've just typed. Sharing lived experiences, the Shared Experiences Library. Say a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, as the lady said there, I used to do care awareness and dementia awareness training, and it was always those sections of a day's training that actually, well, often brought tears to people's eyes, or even stronger emotions, unfortunately, because they recognized they were carers or whatever. And it's basically a place where these stories, lived experience, can actually be put somewhere and used in training. We're doing it at our local mental health trust. We're putting them all together, and we hope that people use it. Maybe a short 10-minute lived experience will go into a team meeting or something like that to do that. But they need a good search engine on it. That's what I'm most worried about, so that people, so that you can pick an experience that's going to relate most to the team that you're trying to educate. But
which trust are you part of, Kevin?
Well, that's for Hertfordshire Partnership University NHS Trust. You know, they are, and so I mean, they've been doing stories for a long time, but now we're going to try and put them together so that staff can actually access them to use them for training and development.
Brilliant. I'd love to chat more about that outside of the session if you're happy to do that. That's one of my passions, so happy to do that. Be lovely. Thank you. Philippa, you're saying recognizing what values and superpowers are important is a great start to making reality. Absolutely, just knowing that's a good starting point. Rachel, Julie and I's favourite way of being is to seek forgiveness, never ask permission. Absolutely, I think you'll definitely start off from that point of view. I'm sorry, shouldn't I have done that? Never mind. Look how well it's worked out. Definitely.
Trish, sorry, just on that one, particularly for anybody who's happens to be in the depth of the system, that's a really good rule. The forgiveness over permission rule is a very helpful one.
Yeah, definitely. Rebecca, you're saying, although that will be a nightmare in a personal support relationship, workers not seeking permission from people who need support is what's going wrong now. No, I think we're talking about people themselves in their own lives.
Yeah.
Not workers doing that. Definitely not. Martin?
I just wonder if there's something. I'm thinking about the discussions that I was a part of in the breakout. We talked a lot about social workers and a sort of a bit of a almost anti-social worker thing going on. I was thinking about a social worker session that we had on day one, I think, which felt really. I was just wondering if there's something about seeking alliances with people you might not necessarily think would be a starting place, but actually, a lot of social workers, I think, feel quite trapped in the system and want to practice in a different way, or want to empower people, but and help people to live a good life, but they seem trapped, but people seem to have this perception that it's the social workers that are blocking me getting a good life. So seeking alliances that you might not necessarily sort of be a starting place, but actually understanding what's going on for them and finding the common ground to build alliances.
Brilliant point, Martin. So bringing somebody close, so somebody who's a problem, bringing them really, really close and saying, can we do this together? Can we do this together? And I think you're right. So in a system,
there's something about human too, isn't there? So there is that situation where, and I can't remember which one it was, but somebody was saying to the staff members, bring your whole self to work. And it was almost like people might have to put on this mask of, I'm a professional now, therefore I can have no feelings, I can't treat people like human, but actually they're human too. And health and social care affects everybody, regardless of what job you do. So there's something, I think Martin's right, there's something about saying, who are the right people around who will influence this together? Because there's some really, you know, we had a director who was saying, why can't this happen? I've just been in this situation with my dad. And, you know, so they're going through exactly the same things as other people. So can we not look at this as a humanity issue rather than a them and us? Definitely. There must be something powerful within that, I think.
Definitely. Wendy, you just said, find others who share my superpower so that we can hone and grow our powers to use in the best way. That's brilliant. It's kind of linked in the same way. So I think I'm really guilty of what you were just talking about there, Martin. I've just got a new social worker. It is the 5th that we've had in the last year. So I you know, and I just was really aware the very first conversation I had with her, I was looking to catch her out. And I you know, I know I was doing it, and I need to kind of go back and revisit that and go, okay, breathe. You're a human being, you know, and I need to make that connection, because it's so easy just to go into that role of, you know, right, you're clearly the bad person. And you're going to try and stop me doing what I want to do, you know. And I'm sure I'm a nightmare. Imagine, you know that you've got me to face. What a nightmare would that be? So that's my lesson. I'm going to contact her this afternoon and go, just let's start this again. So who made social workers gatekeepers? Thank you, Kevin. Brilliant. So I'm really well, we've just got a couple of minutes left, and we need
2 minutes left.
Kerry, I wanted to read out what you said. I've screenshotted it. We've tried to challenge social workers to be innovative by saying, don't break the bank, don't break the law, keep people safe, anything else goes. Brilliant. That's really nice. Yeah, I guess that idea that giving them that power is a really, 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 really important thing. Okay, anybody want to say anything else just as a wind up before we let you go and go on to the next session?
I think there's just something where people have said that people will be there for each other. So there's something we'll just need to capture from the festival of people being able to keep some connection.
Yeah.
You know, so that if somebody is in a situation where they're quite isolated and they need a bit of power to their elbow, please do get in touch with us. We will connect you. We will find a way of connecting you.
Let's definitely do that. Kevin, you've got something?
Yeah, I put it in the chat, but I really did want to sort of get, and I'm not talking about NHS and social care becoming one. I'm not, it could be that, but I'm not talking about that. I'm saying, does social care need a national voice like the National Health Service in order to take parity, I suppose, in a way? We've got loads of associations, directors of this, directors of that, but we haven't actually got a directors of social care, if you see. I mean, I think anyway, Martin and other people might know better than I do, but is that what it needs, or is that going to make it worse? Is that going to make it worse?
I think that's a very big question to end on. I don't know if there's any. Yeah, I think my hunch is always national is not the way to go. But I do know that the hideousness. I'm just doing some work local to where I live, and holding up 3 local authorities that border each other, who have £2 discrepancies in their direct payments rates. You know, so that's their, you know, that's an issue. So I get what you're saying completely, but I think I think discuss, you should put discuss at the end of that, Kevin.
I think that's a superpower. That's right. That's the only reason I introduced it.
No, absolutely brilliant.
And to a degree, that's what Social Care Future is. It's a superpower of bringing everybody together. So there'll be people from NCAS, from the directors, and from local government, and from community, and from people who use it into this agenda. I'm not saying we'd assume the power of anything, but I think there is a lot of power in this actual festival and this group and this movement itself. And we need to just find a way of wielding it better now.
Yeah.
An
so
equivalent,
Francis,
non-equivalent.
Yeah, Francis just said national entitlement, local administration. That's nice, well put. Okay, there's some lovely quotes here. Philippa, we need to start with ourselves, absolutely. But it is 11:30. Thank you so much, folks. Lots of great stuff there, and see you in whichever sessions. We've got a couple to choose from now at 12 o'clock. So you've got a bit of a break, and then 12 o'clock. All right, thanks so much. Take care. Lovely to see you, particularly people I've not seen for ages. Lovely. Take care.